Hello, chair yogis. I am so excited that you're here and that we get to go on this chair yoga journey together. So thank you for showing up. For your practice, you're going to need a hard chair with a back and preferably no arms to get in your way. And hopefully the chair is low enough that you can plant your feet comfortably on the ground. If you don't have a chair that low or you're on the short side, then you may want to fold up some towels or blankets high enough to meet your feet. All right? The other thing is you want your feet to be free to move. So rather than wearing shoes, I'd recommend that you wear socks or go barefoot. Okay, so if you need to go get any of those things to be set up for your practice, pause the video and go do that now. Otherwise, let's get started. Sit forward in your chair, nice and tall, and let your hands relax on your lap in a way that feels natural. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for the next little bit, but don't feel you have to. If you're more comfortable keeping your eyes open, just try to keep your gaze soft, so relaxing the muscles around your eyes as best you can. If you are going to close your eyes, then do so now. And with eyes closed or open, just start to turn your awareness inward to notice how your body feels. Now, it's very likely and common, especially at the start of our practice, that you might feel some areas of stiffness, tightness, heaviness. See if you can notice these things without labeling them good or bad. So practicing awareness without judgment. Today's project will be to track sensations in our body as they arise, to notice if they shift or change over the course of the class. So being a bit of a body detective today. Take a couple more breaths here. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them now. Now, the reason we're paying such close attention to your body today is because that physical feedback is so valuable. And I really want you to notice if any movement today causes you pain or strain. If that does happen, feel free to skip that movement altogether. At the very least, modify it. But whatever you do, don't force anything that doesn't feel good. Let's soften some of the tension in our necks. So finding a yes action of the head, nodding the head up and down, and then reaching the nose up to the ceiling to look up, and then dropping the chin down to the chest to look down. And going back and forth like this, up and down. Noticing how that feels in your neck. And not crunching the head too far back. So that's why we think of lifting the nose up rather than pressing the head back. So think of the movement as being upward instead of backward. And then bringing the head to center. Let's find the no action of the head. So it'll be a side to side like so, and we'll expand that. So looking all the way over to the side as best you can, feeling that little bit of a squeeze. And then circling back through center, over to the other side. Again, finding a little squeeze at that end of the motion as well. And then back through center and moving side to side at your own pace. And paying attention to how that feels in your neck as well. Bringing the head to center, and let's find the maybe action. So this is where you keep your nose facing forward. So face is forward, and you just drop one ear down to the same side shoulder, and then up through center and over to the other ear. If it feels good, you can hang out there for a breath or two. Moving at your own pace. So sometimes without realizing, we hike the shoulders up to the ears as we do this. See if you can drop them down and away from the head. Good, and then bringing your head back to center. Next, we'll warm up a bit by setting the feet a little wider than the hips, so you have some bracing side to side. And we'll start to reach upward with the hands. So see if you can reach a little higher each time until it almost feels that you're trying to grab for handfuls of stars from the sky. So getting some length through each side of the body as you reach. And then now let's reach across as if you're grabbing for something that's in the far opposite corner of the room in front of you, each side. This is a nice little twisting action for the spine, also warming the spine up here, as well as the arms, the shoulders, the hands. And then let's reach side to side to the floor as if you were picking up, I don't know, heavy pieces of luggage from one side and then the other. Imagine that we've packed for a trip together. And I guess in a way we have. Just this chair yoga that we're doing together is a bit of a trip, a bit of an adventure. Good, and then bring yourself up to center, and let the hands relax. So an important part of class is actually warming up our spine in all three planes of motion. So that would be the forward and back, the side to side, and then the twisting. So we're going to focus first on the forward and back motion. And I'll turn sideways in my seat so you can see better, but you can stay as you are. Bring your hands to your hips. And think of scooping your tail under and forward. And then out and back. And you're just going to shift like this, forward and back. An image I find helpful is to think of your pelvis as a bowl of water, and you're spilling that water forward as your tail reaches out behind you, and you're spilling the water back as your tail scoops forward. So although the rest of the body will move with you somewhat, you're really focusing on finding that action in the hips. So limbering up the lumbar spine here. Good, and then we'll give the hips a rest and focus more on the upper or thoracic spine. Starting off by puffing up through the chest, looking up slightly, and seeing if you can also wing your shoulders back, maybe even until you feel your shoulder blades draw close together. And then we'll find the opposite here. So trying to keep the hips more or less in place as you start to round the upper back. So that means bringing the shoulders forward, almost as if you're trying to squeeze the chest smaller here and dropping the chin towards the chest. And now that you've found both motions, seeing if you can flow forward and back between the two of them. And it might be a very small movement, especially if you're trying to kind of find these movements for the first time. Much more important to work with the awareness of finding the movement than trying to rush through or gloss over everything without any kind of awareness. Good. And then allow yourself to rest. And from here, let's do the twisting action of the spine. So setting your feet about hip width, one hand to the outside of the opposite knee. So already initiating a twist here. And if that's enough for you, then you can just stay as you are and breathe. Or you might take the other hand and reach it back to grip the chair or the seat anywhere that feels good. And using that grip to maybe pull yourself a little deeper into that twist. Now this can get intense if you haven't done a lot of twisting. So again, pay attention to how your body feels as you come into this. And maybe you take a break every once in a while. You don't have to hold the twist, but if the twist feels good, you could even deepen it and look back over your shoulder towards the wall behind you. Try to hold the pose, if you are holding it, without holding the breath. So the breath flows throughout. And then release. And bring yourself back to center. Let's do the other side. So again, hand finds the outside of the opposite knee. If this is as far as you're going, that's perfectly fine. Just sit nice and tall and breathe. Otherwise, finding a place of purchase on the chair behind you, sitting tall, and perhaps pulling yourself into the twist. See if you can keep the shoulders dropped down away from the ears rather than hiked up. Taking a break or coming out of the twist if it's feeling like too much. Otherwise, holding for another breath here. And release. Come back to center. And there's a reset move that I really love doing after twists, which is a hip rock. So set your feet a little wider than your hips. And all it is a little bit of a lean through the hips, side to side. So one hip gets heavy in the chair as the other hip gets light and maybe even lifts up off the chair altogether. So it might help again to have hands on your hips to find that action. And at first the body might sway with you. You might try to keep your torso more in a midline. And again, isolate that movement in the hips. And that's going to bring a little more crunching or strengthening on the one side when you move and more lengthening and stretching through the other, just by keeping your torso kind of in place. Good. And then bring yourself to center. Let's do some more work with the arms. So allowing the arms to relax by your sides. Turn the palms up. And you're going to start to scoop up through the arms. So it's almost like, I don't know, imagine there's some weight to the air or some resistance. Maybe you're doing this through, I don't know, a vat of molasses. So feeling some resistance. And then turning the palms out. And doing the same thing on the way down. So you're almost resisting yourself a little bit. And then inhaling to lift up. Exhaling to come down. So keep spinning the palms up or down, depending which way you're moving. And if you haven't done this yet, maybe looking up as you lift the arms up, maybe looking down as the arms come down. Maybe coordinating the breath, inhaling up, exhaling down. And let's do one more. Reaching and scooping upward and spinning palms out and down. When you're at the bottom, just let the arms go, relax. In fact, it might feel good to shake the arms out and shake out the hands as well. Good. Let's come into a side bend. So this is the third action of the spine. So as we were before, bringing the feet about hip width and crossing hand to outside of knee. Reaching the other arm this time overhead. And the taller you reach, the more you'll feel some stretch and opening through that side of the body. That's what we're going for. And I'm realizing I actually should have set my feet a little wider here. So toe wiggle your feet wider than your hips. And if you feel like you could go for more stretch through the side body, then a little bit of a lean. And this is why we want our feet wider, just to brace ourselves side to side. So again, if this is too much, if it feels like a strain in the side of your body, then don't go over so far, or even let the arm down whenever you need to. If it feels good, then see if you can take another breath or two here. So really customizing your own practice based on how your body feels. And then rising up, reaching up, and letting that arm float down. Let's do the same thing other side. So hand to the opposite of the knee. And at first we're just reaching upward for length. There's no side bend yet, no leaning over, just reaching upward. Maybe looking up if that feels okay in your neck. Maybe sparkling those fingers just for fun. And then if you'd like, coming into the lean. So really using this hand on the knee for support. It's almost like I'm hanging off that arm. That's my anchor, as well as my feet braced wide on the floor. And a couple of breaths here if this feels good. And then lifting up and letting go. All right, so just in case there's been any buildup of tension in the shoulders, let's do some shoulder rolls. All we're doing with that is just circling both shoulders back. And this is a chance to actually hike your shoulders up to your ears. I'm always saying don't do that, but here you can. And let's reverse direction. So circling both shoulders forward. And this is a great reset for the shoulders. Really feel free to do this anytime in the practice that you start to feel like your shoulders need a break. Good. And relax. Next, we'll do some work on our legs. So just know that if you're sitting forward in your seat, as I am, perched on the very front edge of your chair, it might be a little more work. If you need a little less, then you might sit back in the chair or even lean back so that you feel more supported. Completely up to you. And what the movement will be is lifting up one leg, still bent, and then reaching it forward. Bringing it back in, letting it down. Let's do the other leg. So up, so the foot hovers, out, so the leg is as straight as you can get it, in to hover, and down. Up, out, in, down. Up, out, in, down. So take a break whenever you need it, or you might start to play with this a little bit and do it a little bit faster. Completely up to you, or sit this one out altogether. But it's nice to have this little bit of work for the legs, even for the core, the feet. And let's do a couple more rounds, both sides. If you're up for it, and let's be done. We'll work the feet a little bit here. So set up the feet hip width, nicely planted on the ground. And then think of really pressing down through the toes and the balls of the feet as you lift the heels up nice and high. So again, if you want to see this from the side, I'm lifting the heels up and letting them down. And you're just going to do that a few times. As you lift up, you'll feel the calf muscles contract. So just noticing where you feel the work. And then we'll do the opposite action. So grounding down through the heels and just lifting up both sets of toes and the balls of the feet. So the heels stay fixed, And you're lifting and lowering both sets of toes. And then we'll rocker the feet forward and back. So as you lift your toes, I forgot to mention this, you'll feel the shin muscles on the fronts of the legs activate. And when you lift the heels, you'll feel the calves activate. So back and forth between those two activations. Limbering up the ankles. Make sure you're still breathing. Good. And you can let your feet relax. We'll come into the hands now, starting off with some finger flicks. So reach your arms forward. And what I want you to do is claw your fingers and bring the thumb in front, quite firmly actually, so that when you flick your fingers out from that, you feel some resistance from the thumb. It's like you're flicking against it. So it's a little bit of work to get that action happening. And just do that forward. In fact, I like to pretend that I've picked up some water from the lake that I'm sitting in, and then I'm flicking water at the person in front of me, which is you. Luckily, you're on the other side of the camera, and so am I, so you can't flick water at me either. But that's what it feels like. That's the action. And then let's flick upward. So flicking against that little bit of resistance provided by the thumbs, and then out to the sides. Anyone feeling this yet in your arms? I am. Good, and then whoosh, relax. Let's stretch the hands and the fingers out. So starting off by reaching one arm forward and flipping the palm upward. You'll want to hinge at the wrist, so bringing the fingers to point down as best you can. The other hand will come in to assist by pulling the fingers in towards you. And getting the fingers captured here is good enough. I will sometimes also go for the thumb. So you might play with that and see which one works better for you. And you can get a stretch both by having the elbow dropped a little bit, pulling the fingers in. Or you might also try lifting the elbow until it comes more or less straight. Good. And then letting that go, shaking out the hand, and coming into the opposite. So again, you're hinging at the wrist again, but the palm is facing down. Other hand comes in and helps pull the fingers and the thumb in towards you. And this time you're feeling the stretch through the back of the hand or the top of the hand. And you might, again, try this with the elbow dropped a bit or the arm straight. So I would explore both, really. And then release, shake it out. Stay as you are. I'll just turn sideways so you get a different view of the same action on the other side. So reaching out through the other arm now, palm up. Dropping the fingers, hinging at the wrist. Other hand comes in to help. So you're pulling the fingers back in towards you. Maybe even the thumb. So I can get a stretch both with my elbow dropped or with my elbow lifted, but they are slightly different. So that's why I'm encouraging you to play with both, as always, just paying attention to the feedback that you're getting as you do so. And the opposite. So palm turns down, hinging at the wrist, drawing in the fingers and the thumb. Elbow might drop down a bit as you pull the fingers in, so maintaining that pull on the hand, or it might lift up. And then releasing and just shaking everything out. And again, if the shoulders would like some TLC here, you might roll them back a couple times, roll them forward. and we'll do some more arm strengthening work. So this is an isometric move, and the thing I love about iso moves is that they look like nothing, and yet they can be as challenging as you make them. So starting off by bending one arm as if you were doing a dumbbell curl for your biceps. Only have that palm up and flat so that you can bring the other hand on top. So this arm is kind of across my body, and I'm placing that palm on top of the other one. Now the trick here is that that bottom arm is going to be pushing up through the hand, and the arm across your body is going to be pressing down. So the two hands are pressing into each other, okay? Ready? Start. So it's almost like the hands are in a fight. And another way of putting it is that you're trying to find a kind of harmony between these two opposing forces, because if they weren't balanced, then you would either hit yourself in the face, or if the top hand was winning, then you'd fall to the floor. So really pushing, 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 and balancing out that incredible power that you're creating, both in pressing up and pressing down. And then release. Let's come into the other side. So elbow bent, as if you're doing a bicep curl and keeping the elbow fairly close to the body. Open the hand so the other hand can rest on top, and then wrap the fingers around each other. And start that action of the hands pressing into each other. And the beauty of this move is that you make it as strong or as hard as you want it to be. So I'm actually pressing hard enough that both arms are shaking. I'm working the biceps of the bottom arm and the tricep of the top arm. So double duty. Push and shake and shake and shake. And then let go. Good. Shake everything out. So the arms, the hands, and again, if it feels good, roll the shoulders back and roll them forward. For this one, I'm going to sit a little bit back in my chair, but only about an inch. You want to be quite far forward, and that's because you want room to reach the one leg out. Once you've got that, we're going to come into the twist, and there are a few options here. One can be outside, hand to the outside of the opposite knee, as if we've been doing, and reach the other arm up and back. Or you might even try sliding that hand down the leg and then twisting and reaching up and back from there. So whatever your body feels better with. Try not to place too much downward pressure on the knees, so you strain the back of the knee. You might want to be a little higher than the knee or a little below, and place so that you're not too heavy on the leg, let's say. See if you can draw the belly in. That might help you twist a little further. And then release. Unwinding, unraveling, resetting the feet, and stretching out through the other leg. So again, maybe this is your warm-up twist to start. You might just do that, finding that position of the hand that we're familiar with by now. And you might also transition, so arm to leg as you reach the other arm up and back. Seeing how it feels on this side, because often the sides are different, yeah? So paying attention to the feedback that's particular to this side. If you're holding the pose, make sure you're not holding the breath, so flowing the breath through. And then releasing and coming back to center, resetting the feet. Last move. Okay, so place the feet nice and wide, almost as wide as you can get them. Sit on the forward edge of your chair so you have some movement or some space to move. And we're going to stir the pot here. So leaning over to one side until the arm that you're leaning away from is stretched long. And then come down and forward to the opposite knee and glide through center until the other arm is long and stretched out. And then holding onto your knees for support as anchors, you're going to lean back and you're doing a little bit of a half circle backward until you end up back where you started and continuing. So you're really drawing these circles through space with your torso. And this is just a lovely way of enjoying some of this spaciousness that you've created in your body today. Hopefully feeling now that you have a little more room to move. And let's reverse. So circling in the other direction. Breathing throughout, so flowing the breath as you flow your body. And this is one of the ones that I never want to stop because it feels so good. You can keep going if you want, but I'm going to come up and reset my feet. So toe wiggling the feet back to hip width. Now we get to do Shavasana, the rest pose at the end of every class, aka every yogi's favorite pose. And I think you'll see why soon. Shavasana is an opportunity to bask in the well-earned and well-deserved afterglow of your efforts. It is an opportunity for your nervous system to settle and relax if it hasn't already. And it's a way to process and integrate the benefits of the work that you've done. So let's get comfortable here. If you want to shift back in your chair to feel more supported with the hips backed up against the back of the chair, go ahead, but try not to lean back against the back of the chair, because sometimes that we collapse a little bit if we do that, or we even fall asleep. So even if the hips are against the back of the chair, sit up nice and tall. Plant your feet. Let your arms or your hands relax on your lap, however feels natural. And if it feels all right, close your eyes. Now with eyes open or closed, whatever you're going for, see if you can grow yourself taller. You're trying to lengthen the spine a little bit, but without strain. So not too much. With each inhale, there might be this subtle lifting through the body, but each exhale, this dropping down of the shoulders away from the ears, as if these shoulder blades were melting down the back. Tuning inward to check in and take stock, as we did at the start of practice. And the million-dollar question here is, do you feel any different now than you did at the start of your practice? And if you do feel different, how? It's not uncommon to feel lighter and freer in your body, perhaps more spacious. If you're not feeling that now, those might be feelings to look forward to in future practices. What you're feeling doesn't matter as much as the fact that you're feeling it. You're really making yourself aware of the feeling and the state you're in. It's almost like pausing here to take a mental snapshot so you'll remember. Couple more breaths here just to notice. And if you are feeling better, then I wish for you that by taking this time to bask in the feeling, you're able to live more fully from this better state more and more in the rest of your life. When you're ready, bringing palms together, hands to heart. Thank you so much for showing up today. Namaste.